Faces dropped on Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Anything's on the table. Stacked show. Got a lot of information to get out. Got a lot of folks coming in. Tyler's coming in at 9:15, as he always does, from Scarves and Spikes. We can talk about Atlanta United, talk about Major League Soccer, talk about whatever's on his mind, and we might talk about Oasis too, or those kinds of bands. So Tyler dropping in at 9:15. We'll see if we can track down the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, for a visit at 10 o'clock. See if we can track down Marion Crowder, who gives us all of her wisdom when it comes to the USL Super League, plus the college ranks here in our particular footprint. So Marion hopefully joining us at 10:30, and we'll blow through all of the other news and all the other stuff, official term, before we get out of here on the day. So tonight, remember, busy night on the network, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:33 kick, Atlanta United 2 and Carolina Core. That is on the network at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Jason will have the call. We'll be a part of pregame, and we'll keep you prepared for a very, very important match for both Core and Atlanta United 2. Don't get me wrong. But both teams, 2 matches in hand with the clubs ahead of them in the playoff chase. So tonight, somebody gets out with a win and gets full points. That can go a long way in closing that gap to 8th place in the Eastern Conference. So big matchup tonight. And once again, 7 o'clock pregame, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Kickoff a little after 7:30. We'll have all the action for you. And then we will get you ready for Thursday and Friday. Thursday is always wide open in hour number 1. Hour number 2, it is fully loaded with our buddy Nino Torres from Gold TV. That's at 10 o'clock. Nico Moreno hopefully has survived everything that has gone on at SeaTac. We all know how the airport is here in Atlanta, busiest airport on the planet, this or any other planet. Of course, I don't know if the folks on Neptune have a busier airport. I've never been to that one. So busiest airport on the planet right here. SeaTac, for those of you who have never been to the Pacific Northwest, they're kind of going through the same kinds of construction that the roads are going through here in the Atlanta area. And so Nico has had to navigate that with friends and family. And so we'll ask him about the airport, and we'll ask him about what it's like to be on the big screen, because he had some TV visits that he had to do as an expert. So Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30 tomorrow, and we'll get you through everything that happens today in hour number 1 on Thursday. And then Friday, as always, it's weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. Get you ready for the weekend, get you ready for Charlotte, get you ready for Atlanta United, all the things. That's the remainder of the week here on SDH. Morning, Sharif. Morning, Alex. Glad you're here with us as always. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code. For those of you who are hanging out with us on the video side, either on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or on the 280-character app, you hit that QR code, you dive in, and then you go to our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And as you check out, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiative, stuff that they have earmarked as cool, as our buddy Carlito says. Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, as I sit here and try and confuse everybody who might be trying to get that QR code and not about our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. That's coming up in a sec. Okay, so we've been going over transfers because this is the dialing up, the winding up of the transfer week over in Europe. And we had like 3 goalies changing positions this morning, teams this morning. UEFA apparently is unveiling a new soccer ball. Crystal Palace has agreed to a fee to sign defender Maxence Lacroix from Wolfsburg. Looks like it's an initial 18 plus 3, checking on personal terms. But in going through all of the names and all the stuff that's been going on this morning, I feel like a lot of the time we're sitting here and it's like we're ishing all over Chelsea. And I don't mean that to be the case, but Bowley Clear Lake are a bit of an easy punching bag. My apologies, Michael. And in going through all of the rumor mill that was going on today, it looks like Liverpool is closing in on Chiesa from Juve. Lukaku is having his Napoli medical. Ipswich is getting Ogbene. Hannibal's joining Burnley. Hannibal Mabry's joining Burnley for Manchester United. Barcelona's Valle moves to Celtic on loan. And you have other things that are out there. It appears that there's another name that has been added to the Chelsea list before the deadline. And it looks like it's Ivan Toney. So there is a there is a thought out there now that it looks like Ivan Toney might be in Chelsea's crosshairs just because. I want all the toys. Literally, this is Sharper Image for Bowley Clear Lake. You walk into Sharper Image. I want the vibrating easy chair. I want I want the hockey game. I want the radio. I want the radio controlled helicopter. I want the fancy golf clubs. I want the waterfall, the cleansing waterfall, the calming waterfall that has the rocks that, give you steam when you want it. Literally, that's what you're seeing now. Bowley Clear Lake now might be chasing after Ivan Toney for Chelsea. So, yes. So that's what you're staring at, in addition to all of the other names that are out there. Once again, Chidozie Ogbene, Luton to Ipswich, Hannibal Mabry for £5.4 million to Burnley. Tanner Tessman, we forgot about Tanner Tessman yesterday, heading to Lyon. But the thing is that we were talking about Lyon, and the problem there, once again, is the money that's attached. Because we were talking about how John Textor might have to ditch 9 figures worth of players just to make sure that he is okay when it comes to PSR, FFP, whatever you want to call it, because Ligue 1 and their guideposts, they're pretty strict. And so, of course, what do? You sign Tanner Tessman. Reminds me, it's like Bowley Clear Lake of France is John Textor right now. So Textor has denied that they have to sell 9 figures to the left of the decimal place worth of players before the end of the deadline. They say that they're under the marker. Everything's cool. Nothing to see here. But it seems like everything's leaning in that direction with them. So, like I said, we mentioned Chiesa closing up his deal with Liverpool. That looks like that's happening. Yeah, the sniffing around Ivan Toney is how it has been stated by our friends at The Guardian, along with Jean Duran from Aston Villa. Manchester United also believed to be interested in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Everton are reported to be looking for $35 million for Calvert-Lewin. Having failed to feature, Neil Maupay is also up for sale despite being contracted to the club until June of next year. So Neil Maupay is part of the discussion. Sam Johnston now looks like he's close to a move with Wolves. And wait a second, let me get to my my insiders here. The beauty of the WhatsApp group these days is that you can sit here and look at updates. And so I'm going to look at updates. Let's see. We mentioned Gay. So Sam Johnston to Wolves, Kepa to Bournemouth, Mark Travers possibly to Crystal Palace. Liverpool closing in on Chiesa, Crystal Palace, and Maxence Lacroix. Okay, so that's where we are this morning. Newcastle's eternal Gahey pursuit is edging closer to an end. It looks like it might be 60 plus 5, and so we'll get there. So those are your morning updates, other than the fact that apparently UEFA has unveiled a new Champions League ball. I don't know what sets this ball apart from all the others. Last time I checked, if it's round and has some designs on it, then it might actually, function. So you tweak the format, you change the anthem. Remember, we played you the anthem, and the only thing different to me with the anthem with the Champions League is that it seemed a little cleaner. Looked like it was CD versus LP. You didn't hear the scratches. It wasn't as dirty sounding. That's the way it kind of felt. But now apparently, the Pro Match Ball from our friends at Adidas for the Champions League, it looks like, okay, so it's got dark edges and it's cool. Made for nights under the lights, as they say. The Pro Official Match Ball. Let me see if I can do this without making, there we go. So I'm not going to try and make anybody angry at Adidas or the Champions League because I'm giving you free pub. But that's what the new ball looks like, well, under mood lighting anyway. I don't know how it acts. I don't know how it reacts. I don't know legitimately what sets it apart. If Thiago Almada were to kick it, would it react a little swervier than it has in the past, like against Portland? Would it respond that way? Would it be a little different? Is it like the golf balls that have like the 98 more dimples than the other one? Does it go further? Does it check up? We have no report from Adidas about this particular ball. What makes it different? But apparently the Champions League has a new ball, and we are to huzzah and hurrah that we have a new ball in addition to a new anthem and everything else with the new format in Champions League. So, yay. That's opening kickoff, at least round one anyway. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are catching us on the video side, either on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or the 280-character app. Go into Kickoff Coffee, use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%. Reinvest at youth games, youth initiatives. Our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. CC Melissa Ortiz. Okay, now the other QR code that I try not to confuse folks with, our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. You hit that QR code if you are interested in a career in nursing or a different career in nursing. They've got over 30 years of experience. Our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, hit that QR code, and then they will ask you, how did you come upon Alliance Nurse Corps? You say SDH, bro. I don't know if that will officially work. You might say Soccer Down Here as opposed to SDH, bro. But anyway, it's our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. Over 30 years of experience if you are chasing a career in the nursing industry. All right, 9:17. All right, my bad. I'm 2 minutes over. Tyler's in. Hi, Tyler.
Howdy.
Let's see. So has the show recovered from the Dusty Rhodes appearance from last week yet?
I thought this was a continuation, and so I'm a little shocked that you're not doing the voice right now.
Okay, well, it could very well be. It could, just pop out anywhere because of how things were. But genuinely, it was just something that came up in my head. It's like, okay, how do we have fun and talk soccer at the same time?
I thought it was great.
So you bring in the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Everybody get funky like a monkey jack. We're talking about that round ball. It's looking different over there in Europe. I don't know what make it different. Do it move different? Do it look different? Do it love different? I don't know. But a friend of Adidas, they're in Germany, if you will. They made a new ball for the European competition to determine the king of the ring in Europe. You understand what I'm saying? They got a new ball. It looked like it good under them lights, but how does it respond? That's what we're staring at. Tyler Pilgrim. And we talk about Pilgrim coming in across on the Mayflower. All them Pilgrims. So what make this man different? Well, he worked in kitchens and he replaced all of the flooring, so we call him Tyler. That's why he's different. That's what make Mr. Pilgrim different from everybody else. He a Tyler. Like that.
I didn't know where we were going with the kitchen thing. I was like, wait a minute. Then I got it. Tile. Yeah, I got it.
He's a Tyler. He makes sure that everything blends and you don't get no water seeping through, because the last thing you want is water coming through your kitchen, going down into your lower floors and making sure that everything getting all leaky. Last thing you want is a leaky underground in your house, because that house going to sink, and then you don't want that because the house going to look kind of weird, It ain't going to be flat, going to have all kinds of weird vibes and ups and downs and whoop-de-doos attached to the floor, and you don't want that, especially if you got an underground like maybe dirt or mud or something. And then that's what happened if you get all the tiling wrong. But that's why you get Tyler Pilgrim coming over from the Mayflower back in the 17th century. And he make his way all the way from Boston down to Eagles Land and south of everything. Southern Crescent. He come from Boston down to the Southern Crescent, baby. And that's where he done made his life. There you go.
That is, do you practice this? Like, nope. This just comes to you. Like, yeah. It's just, that is insane. Mm-hmm. I'll just point out, too, that he actually had a house like 5 minutes from where I live at, which is very funny.
Oh, the Macro Dream Dusty Rhodes had a house 5 minutes from you?
All tied full circle in a way that I never, ever, ever would have expected.
Oh, come on now. I mean, it is, I will say this, though, that once the show is over, I do have to rest up the voice a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just because of all of the different intonations that are there and all the discussions and everything. But no, it was. I will say once again, it was fun hanging out with you and
Yeah.
Tommy and Sid, and Psycho Sid and Tommy Gunn, and it was fun hanging out with you guys and destroying your Wi-Fi. I don't know if that's ever happened with a guest
Yeah.
come
I don't know
charging in
what
that
happened.
destroyed your internet, and it was me and Tommy for like a couple of minutes. But no, it
Yep.
was fun, and thank you for thinking of me on night side to come in and discuss things when it comes to Atlanta United. Atlanta United goes out west, 65 or 70 minutes, say, on the calendar. And defensively, they were causing problems for LAG. LAG was not able to get things untracked offensively. Unfortunately, in the first half, you had a couple of opportunities that were, flag goes up from the AR on Shande a couple of times, couple of chances once again where you weren't clinical and didn't finish. And then in that final 20 minutes, that's when LAG made the difference. They checked in some guy named Marco Royce, who last time I checked, he and
Yeah, he's all right.
and he came in to be a part of the Killer Peas and all of that discussion. So you now have the Killer Peas, the Bishop and Dejan Joveljic, Diego Fagundes, Marco Royce, Yamane, and just craziness at the back and just enough experience back there. But all of the offense kind of tilts things in the final 20 minutes. 2-0 your final.
Atlanta had a decent game, right? Like, I think it's easy to look at this one
Mm-hmm.
the same way that maybe folks have looked at some of the matches before the self-imposed Leagues Cup break.
Right.
Um, it was there were some bright spots. It's not, you can't be okay with losing, right?
No.
Like, I'm not trying to make excuses. This is sports. This is a business. You have to win. But you went out and you frustrated a very, very good LA Galaxy team for about 70 minutes. And I think if there was one moment in the game that really changed things for me, it was when Dax McCarty had to come out. I think Dax was what was keeping the full assault off of the back line.
Yep.
And you just don't have another guy like him unless you drop Slish back and say, now your role is to just be that number 6 and do what Dax was doing. Maybe, but Slish has been kind of doing this like pseudo 8-10 weirdo kind of role for a while. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but you lost some defensive kind of mentality and intelligence back there. And that's what left you kind of wide open. And yeah, I mean, you got to win. You have to win.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some bright spots to take out of this game. Jay Fortune, massive bright spot. The Jay Fortune was phenomenal in this game. And
phenomenal.
Despite the lack of, hitting the back of the net without the offside flag going up, I actually thought Jamal Tiare had one of his best games. And I say that because of his hold-up play.
Right.
He was, along with Jay Fortune, part of the reason why Atlanta was able to successfully, if you want to call it successfully, and still be, 0 on the scoreline.
Yeah.
While they were able to successfully spring some, transitions, some counters, because he won those battles in the hold-up play to then allow guys like Saba, Shande, Jay, in a couple of situations, and guys like that to get forward. So, there were some things that they did right. They just got unlucky with the offside calls. They were offside. There's no arguing it.
Yeah.
But they got off, they got unlucky and then ultimately just couldn't hold on for a full 90.
And so with the games that are there now, that's the last Western Conference matchup that you have to worry about. If you want to say, okay, so we can take that one, put it in, wad it up, put it in file 13, and we're done. So Western Conference, see ya. You guys can hang out with yourselves at the lunch table over in the other corner. We got stuff to focus on here in the middle of the lunchroom for the 8 matches that are left in the regular season. And you start things off with the team that's up 85 in Charlotte. And Charlotte, we've discussed Charlotte being a part of the beginning of the downward tilt in the regular season for Atlanta because of Leo Labata coming in, scoring twice. You had a lead, then you didn't, then you lose. But Atlanta United in that matchup at Mercedes-Benz against Charlotte exposed the edges of the back line of Charlotte with the speed that came down both the left and the right. And I think that that's probably, even with the addition of Tim Ream, that's probably what you're looking at again this weekend, where speed kills. It's there for Atlanta United. How do you take the speed that you have, go up against the back line, knowing that Milanda's probably going to shade to his right to keep things from happening down the left-hand side. And then you've got Tim Ream to help out to shade to the left. So this is going to be an interesting channel change for Atlanta United offensively, making sure that you know where your teammates are, where those relationships are that you trust. Because if you're coming down the right-hand side, Ream shades over, okay, what's happening down the middle? Do I know that that individual is going to be there if it's an underlapping runner, if it's, your starting striker? With the left-hand side, Milanda comes over once again down the middle, creates another opportunity if Milanda shades and you have the knowledge of a cutback or a cross. So I think that the opportunities are going to be there, but I'm intrigued to see how the two center backs for Dean Smith and Milanda and Tim Ream work. Do they work to the outside? Do they stay at home? How do they integrate up against the speed that Atlanta United can bring at Bank of America?
6 months ago, I would have thought you were crazy if you said I was going to get to see a Saba versus Tim Ream matchup. And here we are. I think you're exactly right. I think that's how they're going to play. Tim Ream, look, I know I've mentioned on here before, my middle son, he is a massive Fulham fan. So by nature, we watched lots of Fulham games, and so became very in tune with Tim Ream and what he does well. He doesn't do a lot of things not well, unfortunately.
Yes.
So it's going to come down to the speed. Tim Ream is still quick for his age, but Saba's faster, and the speed that Atlanta has in general is faster. But Charlotte's just a good defensive team overall. Like they're very disciplined. I think that's the biggest thing. And so the one wild card that you're going to have in this is Marion, I think. So if you're focusing on Shande and Saba or whoever's playing outside, and then to a degree, Pedro and Brooks trying to help out and create maybe some numerical, advantages on one side,
right,
that's going to have to draw the center backs out a little bit. And I focus on the right side only because I think from the little sample size that we saw with Miranchuk in the LA Galaxy game, I think he's going to, just how Almada would tend to come up the left and drift into the right so he could take shots with his right foot. I think you're going to see the opposite of that with Miranchuk because he's left-footed. So I think you see him kind of not set up shop, but focus a lot of time on that kind of central right side. And if he can take a shot similar to the one he took against the Galaxy that had like 8.5 seconds of hang time and still somehow caused all those problems, then
right.
yeah, I mean, I think they can nick, one or two, even if he's not the one that scores it, because he also had a dime of a pass out, I think to Shande or somebody out wide in that match, and it's just the left foot had been hyped up, right, and it showed well in the very short time that he was on the pitch. So yeah, I mean with Charlotte, it's going to be I think it's going to be kind of one of those knockdown drag out games, because you also have to remember it is it's a rivalry game.
Yes.
These teams don't like each other.
No.
And so obviously there's not a lot of history with the specific players that are there now, but like you've had in the past 3 matches, the team that was away has been the team that's won. So you had Charlotte beat Atlanta at home, you had Charlotte beat Atlanta at home, and then you had Atlanta beat Charlotte at their home. So Atlanta's obviously going to want to keep up the streak because they don't want to be the last one to lose right at home. So there's a lot riding on this, but it's also a big chance for Atlanta to kind of give themselves a little bit of air to breathe above that playoff line or around the playoff line, depending on what happens.
Yeah, considering that it is a street fight, and we'll get into the numbers here in just a sec. But the Charlotte backline under Dean Smith, last time out against Red Bulls, listed as a 4-2-3-1. Who knows if Opta was anywhere close? It probably drifted into a 4-5-1 as opposed to anything else. You have Christian Kalina in net, and Christian Kalina has been known to stand on his proverbial head, be a warlock, insert whatever goalkeeping cliche you wish to use.
Every Atlanta, opposition goalkeeper do the same.
Yeah, exactly. The Kenneth Vermeer approach to goalkeeping. It's like, yeah, so never would have anticipated Kenneth Vermeer to be a trigger of a goalkeeping discussion about standing on your head, but he is when it comes to Atlanta United. But the back line last time out for Charlotte, left to right, Euronen, Ream, Malanda, Byrne. And so if you remember at Mercedes-Benz, Atlanta United was pounding Nathan Byrne down the attacking left-hand side. And now you've got Malanda and Ashley Westwood and maybe Kerwin Vargas to help out Nathan Byrne because Byrne needed help. He needed help last time out against Atlanta United. So who shades over, who helps out, and that's why I was thinking that Malanda, who is very improved at the back, does Malanda shade? Do Westwood and Kerwin Vargas help out with physicality to help Nathan Byrne? Because speed down the left-hand side was a problem for Nathan Byrne. Then speed down the right-hand side could be a problem for Euronen. And then once again, you have Diani. I don't know how well defensively Leo Labata would be if he starts, but looking at that last lineup, you're looking at Diani, Ream, and Euronen as the triangle defenders for the attacking right-hand side. And I think that once again, Atlanta United in those triangles, in those 3-player matchups that can be a part of the discussion, I think Atlanta United can get things done here. And so that's particularly what I'm looking for this weekend, other than as Abby says, a match that is an actual start time of 7:40 as opposed to MLS After Dark. So I think hay can be made here if you're Atlanta United against those matchups. I'm intrigued to see what Rob Valentino does when it comes to the lineup. And I want to see, does Miranchuk give you 45? Does he start if he can give you 45 or 60? Does he come off the bench again, give you a little more? And we got to see, to your point, the imagination and the vision. And I didn't realize, and you look at someone who is as tall as Alexei Miranchuk is, and you don't realize that someone that tall can be that quick or that fast. And he picks up space, and he takes up space very, very quickly and gets from point A to point B a lot faster than folks might anticipate. Oh, yeah, he's just he's a gangly tall dude. Then all of a sudden he's, 10 yards further down than when you last picked him up on camera.
Yeah, and not afraid to get in the air either, which was pleasantly surprising because it's been a long time since ever, I think, Atlanta had a number 10 that could actually do something in the air, right? Like it's not something that you're used to. But yeah, I mean, just because he's the tall, gangly, lanky guy doesn't mean he can't get down and move around. And you saw it. Now, and to be fair, I kind of brought this up. We were talking about it the other day, but the Galaxy, they had a plan when Miranchuk came into the game, and it was to mark him out of the game and get him, just completely suffocate him.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to look at maybe his first few minutes on the pitch and say, well, he didn't do anything. Well, that's because he didn't get the ball.
Yeah.
But then when he had the ball and he made himself go get the ball, he was having a drop back. He was doing creative things to get the ball, but then he was able to hold on to the ball for the most part. And then he was able to do something with the ball that actually caused danger, right? He was taking, he took that beautiful shot that came off the woodwork. Like I said, he had the really good pass out wide. He had some moments. And so it should be encouraging when you look at what he can do on limited touches going into a game where he probably almost certainly will have many more touches, whether he starts or comes on maybe a little earlier, whatever, however he's implemented. But, for a team like Charlotte, you got to imagine, like you said, Atlanta is going to just absolutely try to wear them out on both flanks, which is fine. In theory, you use the run game to open up the pass game, vice versa.
There you go.
It should allow Miranchuk some more space in the central areas to kind of do some things. In theory, we'll see. But that's how I think it's going to go down.
In theory. Right now, Charlotte is in the 6th spot, 1 point behind NYCFC, and 4 points behind Red Bulls right now. 10-8-8 under Dean Smith in his first work with Charlotte in depth. There's some spacing between Charlotte and the slow fading purple team right now, they're at 34 points in 7th. Atlanta, once again, has match in hand on Toronto, and they can make up ground on Toronto FC. Toronto FC had to kind of stack things up because of the Canadian Championship. And John Herdman's another thing to talk about entirely here coming up in a bit. But Atlanta, once again, match in hand in the activity ahead of them. But once again, remember the way that things are laid out in the East: 2 points, 7 teams. And I've made the point that I figured that the East was going to be a street fight, or as Nick calls it, a rock fight in a phone booth, or a knife fight in a phone booth. And right now, Atlanta's in 9th, and you got a lot of folks that are chasing after the 9, if not the 8, and maybe the 7 if Orlando continues their slow fade. The East, for those of us that cover the East, is going to be one of the more intriguing watches on a match week by match week, if not a half match week by half match week basis for the teams that have to make up matches. This is going to be a really interesting run-in the Eastern Conference because of the chaos that Atlanta United is at the tip of the spear of when it comes to getting into the playoffs.
I mean, I said it last week, right? The Eastern Conference is prime entertainment right now for anybody that isn't one of those teams involved, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like a Royal Rumble. Like, it really is. It is all over the place. And so, yeah, you realistically, you could go 1 week and watch every game. And from the time you watch the first game involving one of those teams to the time the last whistle of the last team ended, you might have like 6 different teams change positions like 6 different times, right? Like it's just all over the place.
Yes, it is. Our long national MLS Eastern Conference nightmare is this much closer to being over. Michelle Kaufman, Miami Herald, with video accompaniment on her 200-character app. He's back! Our first sighting of Lionel Messi on the field doing an individual workout. I'm glad I timed it that way.
That was perfect. Every time he appears, it's like somebody found the chupacabra, like
or Joe Henry,
or that, yeah. Which means he'll be back in plenty of time for that Miami game in Atlanta.
But it's a midweek, and who knows if that's going to happen. But yeah, right now I
heard the pizza specials in Miami on Wednesday were really good.
Oh man. Right now, Messi and friends 8 points clear, and Cincinnati's at 48 points. Columbus 3 matches in hand. 3 matches in hand for Crew because of competitions that they won and basically wagged their finger at LAFC and said, "Not so fast, my friend." They picked up the Ticonderoga number 2 pencil and went like Mutombo finger wag.
Yes, they did.
43 points right now. They're in 3rd. And we mentioned, like I said, Red Bulls right now in 4th at 42. Columbus, I don't care what I don't care what people say, especially in South Florida involving Messi and friends. Columbus, for me, is the team to beat in the Eastern Conference.
100%. 100%. I agree with that entirely. Miami's already clinched the playoffs, which is cool. I mean, whatever.
Good on you.
Yeah, you were supposed to. So, yeah, you did what you were supposed to do, I guess.
You did your job.
Yeah, but no, Columbus is the best team in MLS right now, bar none. I'm sorry. Like, if Atlanta United can go out there and beat Inter Miami with Messi in Fort Lauderdale, and Atlanta can go beat Columbus somehow at home, I'm just saying there's like some weird stuff going on in the universe. But in some weird way that involves math that I don't know, Columbus stands out as the better of the 3 teams I just mentioned.
The transitive property of soccer math.
Yeah, there's a little bit of arithmetic without the A involved there, but
apostrophe R.
Yeah. No, Columbus though, 100%. Like, I think there's 4 teams right now that could realistically compete for MLS Cup, and obviously two in each conference, but Columbus is the one that's leaps and bounds beyond any of the other ones, even Miami with Messi. Miami's got a great team, and Tata is getting more out of the guys without Messi and some of the the superstars than he probably should, but that's what Tata does. Mm-hmm. But Columbus is just a more well-rounded team overall. Like on a daily basis, they are a better team than Inter Miami.
Let's see. To answer Abby's question, the last team to do it was LAFC in 22. So it's happened a couple times. Eastern Conference, Crew did it in 08. DC United 97 and 99, the previous century. Toronto did it in 2017. LAG did it in 02 and 011. LAFC did it in 22, and Sporting Kansas City did it in the year 2000. So it's happened a handful of times out of each conference, but 2022, and because we're here in the Eastern Conference, we have a tendency to kind of forget the spending spree that LAFC did to get to a championship, to bring in Gareth Bale so he could play at Riviera, and Chiellini on an 18-month deal. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hi, Tam. How'd you do? With Gareth Bale, and still have the handsomest men in Major League Soccer. You won both the Supporters Shield and MLS Cup. So 2022 was the last time that happened. And to Michael's point, Michael's hoping that we don't end up with the Eastern Conference spoon. I don't think that's going to happen, but just knowing the chaos that is wrapped into the final 8 matches of the season, I mean, this could be this traditionally in Major League Soccer. San Jose is getting the spoon. We know that. San Jose is getting the spoon of spoons. They are getting the large, like when you'd go to Crate and Barrel and you had like the really big wooden
ladle. That's a ladle. That's what they're getting.
Well, but then you also had like the 3-foot high wooden representations of the fork and the spoon and the knife that you would hang in the kitchen as kind of like since you couldn't do artwork, you would get like the 3-foot wooden spoon and you would hang that on like one of the small gaps between a door frame and your kitchen equipment.
Yep.
Look,
and it's a witch's cauldron spoon type deal.
Yeah, one of those. San Jose got that.
Yep.
San Jose got that. So San Jose, and one of these days, I know that I'm going to have to wear my Cell T-shirt just to make that point. Considering John Fisher's other interests and lack thereof, but they're getting that utensil. That's the one they're getting. It is well deserved. And you get like the wooden spoon and the 3-foot wooden fork and everything. I mean, you guys, San Jose, much to Jarrett's chagrin, has earned the utensil of utensils that's going to hang in the kitchen. I mean, you look at it, 26 matches, 17 points, 5-19 and 2. And so, of course, what do? They win last weekend, coming back out of Leagues Cup. Of course,
why not?
33 goals scored in 26 matches, 61 goals allowed. 61. That takes some doing. I mean, early in the year when they lost big. 61 goals allowed in 26 matches. So 26 and 2 is 52. 9 over 26, like 1 1/3, like 1.36, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But the Eastern Conference spoon, if you want to get into that discussion, you're going to have a team that has been causing problems inside the Eastern Conference, and they're still going to get the spoon. I think that speaks to the level of competitiveness in the Eastern Conference from absolute zero compared to San Jose, who needs like a megaphone and an Uber driver to get back to the rest of the pack when it comes to Major League Soccer here in 24.
We call it the you have the wooden spoon, but that next one up, which I mean isn't much better. Mm-hmm. We've just started calling it the wooden spork.
Yeah, I think so.
So I do think there is no certainty in whatever happens in that Royal Rumble / street fight / knife fight in a phone booth at the bottom.
Right.
So yeah, Atlanta could make the playoffs or they could get sporked. I don't know. It just depends on. how they come out, because I guess I say how they come out. Obviously, the Galaxy game happened. I look at the Galaxy game similar to how I looked at the Columbus game at the beginning of the season,
Right.
and weirdly, I didn't think about it until the other day. I started talking about it. How many similarities and parallels there are between these two. You had the game against a really, really good team. You were the underdog. It was away. Bragdazan saved a penalty.
Yeah.
Which is wild. And then, you played a pretty decent game, but you just couldn't get over the line.
Yeah.
And so now I say come back home. You're not coming back home, but you're coming back to this side of the earth.
Yes.
And you're going up to Charlotte, right? So the only difference is you didn't have a big break, but you're going to have a big break after this one. So I don't know. You've got time. You got 8 games to either set yourself up to where you're somewhere above the playoff line. You might have a fight to get in. Or if you keep kind of that same mentality you had before Leagues Cup, then there is a very real possibility that you miss the playoffs entirely. And,
and you wouldn't be, and it would. And, but you're in a group that is far more competitive.
Yes.
And the folks in the Western Conference at the bottom 3, where you have Zombie Sporting chasing after an Open Cup title now after a massive rain delay. And I think that match might have started like at 6:00 this morning before they came out with a winner because of all the weather delay. I'm sitting here, I dialed it up last night on Apple TV, and it's you get all the multi-language weather delay notification with the Hans Zimmer theme playing underneath the full screen.
A banger of a song.
With the Atlanta United fans in the background.
Yeah.
And so you wait for that match to be over. You've got Zombie Sporting, who have invested everything into chasing after an Open Cup title, which would get them into the Triple C. You have San Jose, who is god awful. And I mean that like one word, god awful, not just god awful. They are GAWDAWFUL. They are god awful. The Eastern Conference chase to get in, and all of those teams are better than the folks that are scrambling at the bottom of the Western Conference. And I think it's far more competitive to go on all of these discussions that we have to mention that the Eastern Conference is better. The bottom of the East, I guess 9 through 15, or however you want to phrase it, the bottom half of the Eastern Conference, far better than the dregs of the Western Conference. It's not just like y'all stink and y'all stink too. No, it's like you've got competitive teams that are knocking off. If you take the Atlanta United example, you knock off Messi and friends. You beat Columbus. You're setting those kinds of examples. It's not like San Jose giving up, 6 to LAG, something like that. It's an entirely different setup. Yes, it would suck to miss the playoffs, but you're in one of the most competitive entryways to get in because of all the chaos that we're going to be visiting here.
Yeah, and
nothing like chaos, eh?
No, nothing like chaos at all. And I was trying to pull up just the overall supporter shield standings, just because I at this point in the year I tend to kind of start looking at it almost as like a traditional league as opposed to East and West Conference, because like we went into this season, we went into last season too,
right,
knowing that the Eastern Conference was overall better than the Western Conference for the most part. I mean, you had your teams in the Western Conference that have kind of stood out, done what they're supposed to do, and they're going to be competitors. And really, MLS Cup is anybody's game usually. But when you start looking at those, kind of 8th, 9th places and below in each conference, that's where it gets really interesting to me. And that's where I do wish that you had more of, the interconference play, just to kind of add that little bit of spice to it. But overall, yeah, I mean, most any team in the Eastern Conference you could put up against any of the bottom 5 or 6 teams in the Western Conference, and likely they come out on top. That's just the gap right now.
Yeah, and that's your playing gap. And when you're going after points and records, getting the number 1 draft pick in Major League Soccer is far different than getting the number 1 draft pick in other sports because of the impact that maybe the top 2 or 3 would have, as opposed to the other sports. Oh, you're going to get a generational player. Not necessarily the case in Major League Soccer. So if you were to, if you were to be one of the teams that's below the playoff bar, like if you were, say, Sporting, or, one of those teams that's not quite going to make the playoffs, to tank doesn't necessarily benefit you. So the idea that, just go ahead and throw it in and play, and just forget the rest of the season, you can't do that, because it doesn't really impact you in a draft setting, but it does impact you in an emotional setting and a physical setting for your own mindset, getting prepared for next season. You can't quite do things in MLS that you could in other sports.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it maybe, or rather the coach has to the front office has to kind of put a little bit of stakes, I guess, on it, in terms of, like, especially like in the case of Atlanta right now, we use them as an example, but you have 9 players that are coming up on, the end of their contract or option years.
Mm-hmm.
It should be made very clear that you are playing for a job, because you don't have the NFL type thing. You don't have the ability to go and just absolutely screw the rest of the season, because it's highly unfavorable for you to do anything.
Yes.
You don't have that option. You can't just give up. You shouldn't give up anyway. I do hate that about other leagues, but I do understand, like, you're going to get potentially a phenomenal player because you get to pick first. I get all that.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have that in MLS, so there has to be something else tied to it. And it should be, you need to play for your job. You need to play for the badge. You need to show some pride in the team that you're playing for. And you need to show that you want to be back as a part of this project next year, because we have, $40 million in the bank that we're getting ready to hopefully spend in the off season,
right?
Plus a new coach, hopefully possibly coming in, whatever. You should be playing for your position and your job. And if you don't, that just makes our decision in the winter that much easier.
Yeah, to pursue those names that you were talking about, the 24s, for lack of a better phrase, the class of 24, for the end of contracts. It is, a couple of names that, roll off the top of your head, and it's the ones that have those deals. It's Brad, Dax, Jamal, Daniel Rios, who has outplayed his contract to date.
Yeah,
I don't care what anybody says. Daniel Rios has outplayed the expectation and his contract. Ronald, Nick Firmino, Efren Morales, Tyler Wolff, Jay Fortune. Those are your 24s. That's your December 31, 2024 decisions right there that have to be made for Atlanta United and the future in that element to keep them a part of the roster. Michael, to answer your question, it's an end of season allocation of $200,000 for each team that does not make the postseason. So you get an annual allocation of $200,000 for each team. Then you get an extra $200,000 of AM if you don't make the postseason. Yay.
Which Atlanta would probably use on a couple of international spots, most likely.
Yeah, so they would trade that. They would trade that AM for international spots to figure out, okay, where do we go from here, and we'll get more international spots, because that's the approach that we're going to have. So, we've gone through Charlotte, we've gone through the Eastern Conference. When it comes to the other stories this week outside of Atlanta and Charlotte and the rivalry game and the Eastern Conference and the knife fight in a phone booth, what else are you looking at when it comes to Major League Soccer this week, coming into a weekend where Leagues Cup is finally beyond us, and they can put the shrimp appetizer plate that they put in the middle with the ice in it, and they can move that to the side, and they can chase after the Captain America shield?
I mean, as far as other storylines, I mean, I'm still trying to keep an eye on every one of the teams that are kind of around Atlanta, obviously, just because at this point, this is where you kind of want to start.
So you're busy is what you're saying.
Scoreboard watching. Yeah. Actually, so I'll be busy this weekend.
Yeah.
But then I will be out next week. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to miss the show next week.
Is that allowed?
I'm going to be somewhere in the Caribbean. So,
well, you know what you could do? You could test your Wi-Fi at 9:15 on Wednesday, September the what is it? 3rd, 4th,
or
4th. So yeah, so September 4th at 9:15 in the morning, you could test your test your international Wi-Fi.
I could, and I would be live from Mexico. So maybe I'll hop in for 2 minutes. I don't know. I also might leave my phone on the boat and you know, just cut off the entire world. I don't know. But anyway, that's probably
so basically what you're saying is that you set up the fact that you and the boss and the family are going on a vacation in an entirely different part of the world just to sit there and say, I'm on vacation next week and I'm in Mexico and I ain't going to be on the show. So I see how this works. You're taking the off week for Atlanta United, the last off week for the stretch run, and you've just decided to go to Mexico. Are you going to be in a position to catch any Liga MX matches or any of the lower divisions while you were away?
No. We're actually going on a cruise. So we're just stopping off in Cozumel.
Oh, okay. So you just have to make sure that when you purchase things in Cozumel that you are not left on the shore and can get back to Captain Stubing and Julie, your cruise director, to make sure that you are on the Lido deck and that you can see everything in the Gulf of Mexico.
The Lido deck is my favorite. We actually, before COVID, we cruised a lot, and obviously COVID happened, and this is the first one we've been on in a few years. And Cozumel has become like a weirdly like second home to me because we've been there so many times.
Okay.
Last time I was there, though, right before COVID, I had to help carry a 400-pound man back onto the boat because he was so drunk.
Wow.
Yeah, it was enlightening. It was enlightening. This is after swimming with the dolphins and that area, that business, whatever it's called. It's not an aquarium, whatever.
A controlled aquatic environment.
Yes, that. They had an open bar, which was part of said 400-pound man's demise.
Did the dolphins take part in the controlled aquatic alcoholic environment as well?
Yeah, they were all there. They were doing their thing, and they came up and
they was drinking beers with you. They were
going back to rum. The dolphins are all about rum.
Okay,
all about rum.
So you had dolphins that were pounding Bacardi, and you had a guy who was 4 spins on the Toledos who was not handling it as well as the dolphins were.
Nope.
And so you had to assist this gentleman back onto the boat so all of you could get back onto the boat.
Yep. And it was like, I mean, the final whistle was approaching. It was that bad. And I don't know if you've ever been to Cozumel on a cruise.
No.
But they have the longest pier. Well, there's 2 of them. They have the longest piers ever. So the cruise ship docks, right?
Okay.
You actually walk through a almost like a little miniature mall on the way to the actual land.
Duty-free pier.
The duty-free pier. That's exactly what it is. And so then on the way back, they were like, you can't walk through here. We just need you to go outside. So we're walking next to the water. And this is the longest, like half mile, it feels like, that we're having to carry this guy. And he is not just out of it. He's done. Not walking at all.
He's DUN done.
Yeah, done. So that was my last trip to Cozumel, and it was a doozy. So
what happens if this same 400-pound individual meets you on this cruise once again?
He's staying in Mexico.
It's like,
he's staying in Mexico. I'm sorry, man. You got one out of me, and that built muscle in me for about a month afterward.
No doubt. 3 sets of 12. You don't have to worry about that.
It was. I felt bad for the guy, really, but he was
yes, man. And you probably felt bad for your back by the time that you were getting everybody back on the boat. Hit the promo for me. What's going
on? So we are gonna have our show tonight, and still working on some things as far as layout and all that good stuff. Because it was kind of last minute. But anyway, we'll have a normal show tonight. We'll be talking, the Charlotte game mostly going forward. Got our articles up on the website from this most recent game. And then, I don't have my coffee mug this morning. I opted for the Mandalorian. Okay. But, go on the website, go to the shop, get you a mug, or I also didn't wear my hat. Look, I'm slacking today.
Well, it's because it's your last show with us before you go to Cozumel. I know how this works.
Actually, the hat's packed. That's part of the reason why I didn't.
Okay.
So, yeah, y'all go check out the website.
Yeah, I see the slow fade here when it comes to getting ready for the boat trip. All right, so as
Checking out.
yes, at Scarves and Spikes, Tyler, it's always great to catch up with you, my friend. We will catch up with you when we see you, probably in 2 weeks.
Absolutely, thank y'all.
Yeah, so he's gonna have fun. So there goes Tyler, and he's not in his gear. He's not in his Scarves and Spikes gear. He's in his Mandalorian mug. He's not. He doesn't have a Scarves and Spikes mug. He doesn't have a Scarves and Spikes hat. None of that. You can tell he's on a slow fade getting ready for Cozumel. You know what? It's time to catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast. We go hot tag. Dylan Butler dropping by. Dylan, good to see you, my friend. I know that things are running in the spring sports about 9,000 miles an hour. The late summer sports, about 9,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the mug this morning?
You're not going to like it.
Oh, I'm not. Well, I figured, I mean, look, I'm an Angels fan, so it kind of is irrelevant for me.
I guess I just assumed you were a Braves fan.
Oh, no. Raised here, watched it here, grew up on Skip Carey, and made sure that you got to pay attention to what was going on inside the broadcast booth. But no, I'm an Angels fan. Born in the 714. And I'm an Angels fan. Grew up on Reggie in an Angels uniform, and it's one of the first home runs I ever saw hit in the Big A was with Reggie, where he goes down and he like bends down. And he's like maybe 3 inches off the ground to get the low ball, and smashed it over the left field fence at the Big A when it was enclosed. But no, Angels fan. No. I mean, how many home runs is Judge going to hit this year, by the way?
I think he's on pace for 612.
Okay, cool. I can
around that number.
I can get that. Yeah. I mean, because he's like at 98 right now, right?
And it's amazing. Was it about a year ago where hey, first time, long time. It's Joey from Massapequa. I don't know if we should sign this Judge guy. I mean, he's always hurt.
Oh my God! And yeah, how'd that work out for you? Yeah, really. So you got Judge and the Yankees, and like I said, most of the fans here that are watching the show or that are a part of the show, yes, they are Braves fans for the most part. Me, I'm a West Coast guy. I know that my team sucks, and I don't want my owner, and he double clutched on a sale, and I get all that stuff. So no, I'm stuck with it. I know I'm stuck with Artie Moreno for the foreseeable future, and that's just how it's going to be for me.
Have you heard the? And again, I know you're not a Braves fan, but pretty cool song. Morgan Wallen has a song, 98 Braves.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, okay. I just heard it the other day.
Okay, I will have to dig it up on the YouTubes and see how many obscure like Eddie Perez mentions or anything like that. Steve.
He gets pretty in there. I mean, things are accurate from what he's singing about. So
okay, just checking. So then I'm going to have to go and check that song. Speaking of the Braves, I need to go back and watch the Greg Maddux documentary that came out on MLB Network.
Oh yeah.
And all of the things, like he called his own pitches, and with Eddie Perez, it was like, you pick your nose, it's a curveball, you wipe your brow, it's a cutter. Those kind of things. Literally, he called his own pitches, and he set up Jeff Bagwell 3 months apart in at bats, and it's like, I'm going to give him a fastball, and then we're going to face them in the playoffs, and so 3 months later, they face the Astros in the playoffs, and Bagwell's looking for that four-seam fastball to the inside. They give him 3 straight changeups, same location, strikes out, bases loaded, out of a jam. So that's how forward-thinking Greg Maddux was, and it was really cool to see those clips of Mad Dog and how he developed. But baseball down here traditionally runs at 3:30 in the morning on Mondays. So when it comes to Major League Soccer, the breaking news in hour number 1. Our long international nightmare is this much closer to being over, as Michelle Kaufman at the Miami Herald reports that Lionel Messi jogging off to the side in an individual workout, huzzas and trumpets, the skinny trumpets with the flags and the dudes dressed in the medieval Renaissance gear. That's what was happening, I guess, at the training ground this morning in Miami Gardens. that they're that much closer to having Messi
Either
back.
that or they're all sipping on like mate. So
true, yeah, absolutely. So it could have been the trumpeters sipping on mate, celebrating the individual workouts return of Messi. So it's no longer just and friends in the Gulfstream Galacticos. But we were talking about it with the Eastern Conference. I still think that Columbus is the top team in the East, better than Messi and friends, even if they're at full strength. What have you seen in the Eastern Conference? I know that you've been staring at NYC and their growth and Red Bulls and their growth right now at the 4-5. But when you look at the top of the East, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, I think, because if we rewind back to, I don't know, February, right? Like start of the season, we probably would have had those roles reversed, right? Like where we would have said, yeah, Columbus, they are going to be the Shield winners. There is no doubt. But Miami, they're not made for the long haul, but they could win these short tournaments. I literally said that on a number of occasions. And the script has been flipped. And you have to give credit where it's due. I mean, for Miami to just continue to do what they do, without the best player on the planet for as long as they have, it's a huge credit to them. Absolutely. I think he gets sort of that hockey assist there, right? Just because I think when you have a player like that, obviously everything elevates. The locker room is elevated, right? Like everyone, it's just a different mentality and a different feel, I think. And you saw it with other great players, whether it was Henry here at Red Bulls or Beckham in LA. And they weren't even the best players on the planet at the time. So, he does get some credit for that, but also it's a testament, how many people counted them out on a number of occasions. I'll put my hand up and I said, I don't know, in August, in the heat, Suarez, his knees.
Yeah.
No, everything has been to this point. That train has continued to chug along. So credit to Tata and everybody there at Miami. But I am in agreement with you. I think Columbus is the best team in the. Listen. That Eastern Conference final will be outstanding, right? Between those two, if that's what we get. But the two of them have separated themselves from the pack. There's no doubt, right? Like Cincinnati's obviously taking a step back. They're continuing to try to fill that gap at center back.
Gaps plural. Yeah.
So they're at this point, it feels like a distant third. And then the battle for 4-5. And this is an interesting one for you.
Yeah.
So I have long wanted a Hudson River Derby playoff extravaganza, and we haven't had it. Right? They've met in the Open Cup. Red Bulls winning, I believe, both of those I think there were two matchups in the Open Cup. They won both. But how great would it be to see those two go at it in a 3-game series? But here's the caveat. As you know, Dylan Butler Estate's not quite ready.
No.
And both of the local baseball teams, the aforementioned Yankees and the New York Metropolitans, are gearing up for playoff pushes. NYCFC have announced their last 2 regular season games have been moved because of MLB playoffs to Red Bull Arena. Should these teams continue in their baseball playoff push and those stadiums are not available, that home and home would be exclusively at Red Bull Arena.
Just turns into a home. Yeah.
Yes. But like the Red Bull fans then for the NYCFC home leg would be the away fans.
Yeah.
and like I don't know, it would be pure
Would,
chaos.
would they get their same season ticket seats? Would they get them
It's an
from it?
NYCFC home game.
Yeah. Would they? So would they still get their same seats?
Well,
Even
what they don't do for NYCFC home games at Red Bull Arena is they don't put anyone in the supporter section behind the goal, like that one side. The NYCFC supporter section is on the other side. So if you picture a regular Red Bulls game, that section 101 behind, if you're watching on television, the goal to your right,
okay.
that's the safe standing Red Bulls supporter sections. NYCFC fans are not permitted to be there, so they set up behind goal number on the left. So
Okay.
that section is empty now. I would assume that that would be filled with Red Bull fans, but and also NYCFC fans don't go to Red Bull Arena.
Yeah.
So like it would be NYCFC. I mean, if NYCFC fans really wanted to mess ish up, they would go out and fill the place, and you'd have very few Red Bull fans there. Like that would be hilarious.
Oh man, that is a special brand of chaos.
But think about it, like, so if NYCFC earns home field advantage,
right,
it would. I mean, again, this is all likely. I mean, it's not finalized, I should say.
yeah,
It's just me theorizing it, but they would earn home field advantage at Red Bull Arena.
yeah, and to that, so that's a special brand of chaos that only that only NYCFC and Red Bulls can bring to the table here.
And it's not going to be for much longer, right? I mean, obviously once Dylan Butler Estates is
completed
built,
allegedly, yeah, and then it will be undersized Dylan Butler Estates. It will be a medium for a soccer stadium, and for Dylan Butler Estates, I still think that they're underbuilding in the live work play environment. To get into I want to circle back to NYC and Red Bulls as a part of the discussion of the 4-5 here in a bit.
And Charlotte too. They're in that mix.
And Charlotte, Atlanta's got them this weekend up there in Charlotte. So we'll see what happens in the race for the 8-9, which is chaos. And we got into that where you have 9 to the bottom, 7 teams separated by 2 points. Gee, thanks. The math and all the other things that are going to be involved for the sprint for the final 8 matches for most folks. The lineup that Messi and Friends, which was and Friends last time, trotted out against Cincinnati. You had Calendar in net, and that's normal. You had Hector David Martinez, Busquets, and Tomas Avalos, the walking red card, as your back 3. And Tata, what Tata does is he'll go 3-5-2, 5-3-2, what have you. It could morph into other things. Jordi Alba would drift back as a left back. You'd have Weigand, Marcelo Weigand, who has been brought in as one of the transactions under the salary cap, the magician that Chris Henderson has become, the Doug Hennig of Major League Soccer. He and John Thorrington are battling for that title. So you had the back 3, we'll just call it the back 3, Martinez, Busquets, and Aviles. Your midfield 4, Alba, Federico Redondo, Yannick Bright, Marcelo Weigand. Diego Gomez up top with Luis Suarez and Matias Rojas. So some of the folks there aren't even household names in their own household. And they're being put in the lineups by Tata Martino and getting the same kind of success. Ian Frey comes up for Messi and Friends too. Noah Allen, Robert Taylor, Campagna getting minutes occasionally. You end up with David Ruiz, Benja Kremovsky, Sergei Krivtsov, and Franco Negri. Like I said, reinforcing the fact that getting guys to fit under the cap, there's some folks there that are, I'm sure, getting paid some nice NIL deals, to make sure that they're a part of the equation. But Tata Martino, with all the injuries and all the juggling that he's had to do, has had the support of his front office, and they've made it work financially. I'd love to know how, but once again, that's something Major League Soccer isn't really too keen on letting us know. But that lineup last time out against Cincinnati, and the last 4 times out that Cincinnati has had a man advantage, they have not won a match and they've only scored 1 goal. That should tell you all you need to know about Cincinnati, I would think.
Yeah.
it ain't there because that back line for them, Miles Robinson playing either left center back or left back in the 3-4-3 for, or whatever you want to call it. Chidozie Awaziam and DeAndre Yedlin. Those were your three backs or your 3 center backs. And you had Yuya Kubo who would come back and help out and defend. Luca Oriano, possibly if you went 5 at the back with Bodo, who had an awful giveaway for goal number 2 when you scored 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. And Buca, and then up top, it's Kelsey, Dottie Valenzuela, and Joaquini. But the problems at the back for me, the injuries at the back, and how you're trying to solve them if you're Pat Noonan, that's why I've got Cincinnati not as a part of the discussion in the Eastern Conference. For me, it is Columbus and Messi and friends.
Yeah, and if you're Cincinnati, I think, I mean, you're certainly not punting on the end of the season,
No.
but like you're just making sure, like you're massaging situations. Is Lucho? Let's get him to full health. Like you're not going to finish first in the East. You're not going to win the Shield. With the games in hand and the way that Columbus is playing, you're not going to be second. So look, you're third, right? You have a home game, like you're good. So if I'm Cincinnati, that's what I kind of do here. I get, have your center backs now. With Teenage joining yesterday, I think it was. Get them reps, get them together, everyone on the same page, get Lucho healthy. Anyone else needs a breather, and just maybe go on cruise control down the stretch drive and prep yourself for the playoffs.
Teenage Hadibi. That is a name that I didn't think that I would be.
Come back, say again.
Yes, exactly. Teenage.
Well, listen, he fit the perfect. Like, you needed it to be someone who is a free agent, who is not tied to a club.
Right.
He's a guy who has MLS experience. Mm-hmm. Right. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, he played for Dynamo, and then he was over in Turkey, and then the Turkish club did not renew his contract. So Teenage Hadibi, God bless you. You end up having him available, and you're trying to sit there and plug folks in to sit there, and it's like, okay, how are we going to get across the finish line here? And so that's what you're looking at right now with Cincinnati. And so with what's going on with the story in the Northeast, Red Bulls at 42, they've been doing what they've been able to do the last little while without Emil Forsberg. And then you've got what Nick Cushing did after the rough start. They figured things out. They're in 5th right now. They've got one more win than Red Bull, but they're 3 points behind. When you look at these two going down the stretch and you kind of see where they are, how do you think this shakes out? Does it stay Red Bulls 3 points? Do you see NYC sneaking up and taking the 4 or taking the position away from Red Bulls as they get to the finish line? What are you staring at here with these?
Yeah, I mean, first off, a brutal 2 points dropped for NYCFC at home against Chicago. You can't do that. Like if you're fighting for that spot, you can't give away points like that. So
yeah,
they missed a golden opportunity to be right there neck and neck. I mean, obviously they're a few points back, but listen, it's literally 1 month from today. NYCFC Red Bull, Hudson River Derby at Red Bull Arena. I think it decides it, right? Like, I think unless either side goes crazy on either, in either way, which I don't really see happening, I think that match will likely decide it.
Philly and Columbus is a makeup game tonight, and Abby and others in the Twitch pitch and on our social media basically are rooting as hard for Crew as humanly possible, just on general premise when it comes to Philly, even though our buddy Rich Ransom is a part of our Twitch pitch clan as well. When you look at Philly and what has happened with them wanting to run it back one more year, Everybody's a year older. We're all a year older. I mean, that's the rotation of this planet around that star in the center of our solar system kind of reinforces that. When you look at Philly, they no longer have Jose Martinez. He's headed to South America. You're missing pieces, and everybody's a year older. When you look at Philly, what do you see right now in them going forward? Because right now they're at the 10. They're a part of that scrum from 9 to the bottom. What are you staring at from Philadelphia as they try to run it back one more time, and they're going to have problems to get into the play-in round at the 8-9 right now?
Yeah, I feel like the way that they're playing, I think they get in. And if they do, I mean, look, they're a dangerous team because of their experience, right? So, Tyberibo has been outstanding, right? We a year ago, we're like, what? Why did they sign this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
And he's filled that void that Carranza left perfectly, arguably better. And right now down the stretch, they're playing, their best soccer. Like, I feel like Leagues Cup, I think it could serve a few different purposes for teams. Like, obviously the winner, or sorry, the top 3 teams get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So that's a goal for them. But I think it also allows teams to get into a bit of to get some momentum rolling, right? Like, if things weren't going well, we saw that was a possibility, although it didn't work out for like a Nashville, right? Like, hey, new coach, let's get it going. Leagues Cup, we can maybe get something, and then that didn't work. But for Philly, it has.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're, this is the this is like, I don't know, pick your band, right? Like the Eagles, the world tour, like their final, the Rolling Stones 25th final,
yes,
group of shows. Like, this is it for these guys.
Yeah, so so then who's Mick Jagger and who's Keith Richards and who's Ronnie Wood? Because
Bedoya's got to be one of those guys, right?
Okay, so let's see, Alejandro Bedoya.
Is he the head of the Philly Snake, right? So would he be Mick Jagger?
Yeah, I think he might be. I think Bedoya would be Jagger.
I think you have to have Blake as somebody.
Blake is probably Ronnie Wood because
he's in the back, right?
Well, and Ronnie doesn't really talk a whole lot. He's just he's the bass player, and he keeps the rhythm of everything. So I would say probably either Blake or Wagner is Ronnie Wood. Then maybe Glesnes is whoever has replaced Charlie Watts with drums. And so then you've got to come up with.
Where does Blake, or just because of positionally where they are, would Blake be?
Yeah, well, okay, so then Blake would be the drummer, and then Wagner or Glesnes would be Ronnie Wood. And we just have to figure out who, if Bedoya is Keith Richards, if Bedoya is Mick Jagger, who's Keith Richards in this equation? Who else has been there for 9,000 years, but is kind of like the number 2? He's the B-side for Philly.
I mean, Elliott's been there for a while.
Okay. Is there anybody else who's like 9,000 years old that has been there for 11 billion years that would fit in the band structure? That's our question for the Twitch pitch.
It would have been.
Yeah,
Coutinho, I guess, but
yeah, well, or it could have been Jose Martinez. It could have been one of those before they go ahead and leave. So,
Jose Martinez, like Keith Richards, would smash a guitar over someone's head. So
true. Okay, so since he hasn't played for Corinthians yet, we'll go ahead and put Jose Martinez in as Keith Richards. So, yeah, for this last tour of the Stones, otherwise known as the Philadelphia Union, that's what you're staring at with their band lineup. Toronto. I want to get into Toronto with you a little bit and the continuing saga of John Herdman before we go. It appears, according to Joshua Cloakey at The Athletic, as yesterday you had your Can Champ second legs of the semifinals to determine who's going to be playing for the Canadian Championship, and it's going to be Toronto.
I'm a big fan of Can Champ. I love me some Can Champ.
Well, and last night at BMO, Forge drove down the QEW to go play at BMO Field, and away goals apparently matter in this competition. So you end up with Toronto advancing, and John Herdman at the buzzer decides to sprint onto the field and celebrate with his players and the supporters and not shake Bobby Smirniotis' hand. He just kind of like was a bat out of hell, heads out onto the field, and he's going to do his thing. I don't think there was ever a make good handshake opportunity. So John Herdman, once again, just runs out onto the field, doesn't shake a hand to thank Forge for.
Well, he got caught up in the Can Champ experience.
Yes, he did. The Can Champ chaos. Yeah, yes. John Herdman got caught up in that. But there's also talk, Joshua Clokey at The Athletic mentioned that there was a drone that was viewing a Forge practice on July 19th, I believe. And Forge was like, oh, okay, there's a drone. Great. And so they didn't do anything about it. But now there's an investigation going on in addition to everything else that has been going on involving drones and John Herdman. Where did this drone come from that was watching Forge's practice, that if it was from Toronto FC, it didn't help him because it was still a 2-1 win for Forge? But you still have these questions about Canada Soccer and the independent investigation. And now you have John Herdman once again coming into the crosshairs of did he drone or did he not drone? These kinds of things. And we still end up with an elongated investigation in more instances that might be jammed onto John Herdman and his coaching dossier here.
I will say, when I think of Canada, I think of the great sport of hockey.
Yes.
You affiliate probably Tim Hortons.
Absolutely true. Swiss Chalet, Tim Hortons, Zellers. Yeah, the Aero bars. I'm right there with you.
Maple syrup.
Yes, absolutely true.
And apparently now drones.
I guess so.
Who knew?
Well, I didn't. You know,
such a Canadian thing.
Look, if you could get the drone sponsored by WestJet.
Was it a red drone?
Oh no, that's the thing.
With a maple leaf on it.
Yeah, was there a maple leaf on it? Was it a WestJet? Was it sponsored by, any of the other Rope says you could get it sponsored by a poutine manufacturer. Get it sponsored. Get it sponsored by Swiss Chalet or something. But there are more questions now. There continue to be more questions added than we have answers involving him and his coaching behaviors, I guess, for lack of a better word. Where do you stand on John Herdman and Canada Soccer and all of this as they still continue to investigate with everything that happened involving Canada Soccer and the women's team and the Olympics and all these? Where do you stand on John Herdman right now? Heavy sigh to start.
I think it's too much to unpack in the I mean, I don't know. I guess to be determined on what happens with him. It's unfortunate. Like, if this was just some random drone, it's unfortunate because of the other allegations that, now everything is coming back to him, coming back to Canada Soccer, right? Like, and it's because these situations, one, obviously happened at the Olympics, and two, haven't been resolved yet. So
right,
you're going to get, I guess, these allegations. So
yes. So you're of a wait and see right now involving
I think so. Yeah,
Canada Soccer and everything. Okay, break it down for me. How busy are you going to be, sir, this weekend? Do you know how busy you're going to be yet when it comes to the high school footballs and the varsity media?
Yeah, for sure. We just actually did our it was live on location was actually really, really cool. Even if like you're not into, New York high school football, we had a pretty cool show last night from one of our sponsors. Place is called Blaze Pizza.
Oh, Blaze Pizza, yes.
And it was at one of their locations in the heart of Queens. So we were in Fresh Meadows, Queens, we were on their outside area, like buses were going by, people were all honking horns. Like, it was a really cool, I thought, visual. And we had, I think we ended up with like 5 or 6 teams that came live, about an hour and a half show. And it leads to the kickoff, which is this Saturday, week 0, big rivalry game on Long Island, Chaminade and St. Anthony's. So that's Saturday at 1:00 on the Varsity Media YouTube channel.
Yes.
I'll be on tonight for a doubleheader of that aforementioned Philly Columbus and Seattle LAFC. US Open Cup. I'll be on the desk for those for MLSsoccer.com, and busy weekend again, right? Apparently now we're on Messi Watch.
Yes, we are. We're on Messi Watch. He's back in an individual workout doing toe touchies and jumping up and down.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that on Saturday, and one match on Sunday, LA against St. Louis. I'll be on for that as well. So yeah, busy stretch.
All right, enjoy the beverage that is in your Yankees mug, sir, and enjoy the rest of the transfer deadline week with your beloved Newcastle. And we will catch up with you as the busiest.
By the way, I saw on your mini rundown that possibly discussing Oasis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are my guys.
Yeah, and so
I've seen Oasis. I don't know. I didn't do the math. Probably 8 times, maybe. They've got to be coming to New York. Here's my thing, right, John? Sorry to go to extra time. Here's my thing. They've got to. They're calling it a world tour, right? So obviously, there's going to be more than just the UK involvement,
right?
But please make New York the first stop out of the UK, because this train is going to go off the tracks at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
I would just not, don't go out west or go to Singapore and then come here, because it's never going to get to New York.
Yeah.
So come to New York first. Let's see it. And
then you can fight on stage. Is basically.
And then whatever happens.
You know it. Yep. Jason saw him in '95, and so Jason is our Oasis expert. The rest of us fall in line. Be good, my friend. We will catch up with you soon.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right, there he is with his Yankees mug. So here we go, hot tag. And we've gone from one hot tag to the second hot tag of the show, which means we have our third guest. And back by popular demand, it's Marion Crowder. And for Marion, we get to bring Marion in. Do you have a morning beverage with you, Marion? There you go. So what's the mug, by the way?
So my mom actually did this for me. This was against my will. I'm just putting that out there for everyone. When Hunter, my husband was a minor league baseball player. When he was playing for the not San Francisco Giants, for the Frisco Rough Riders. So Hunter he was drafted by the San Francisco Giants, got traded to the Texas Rangers organization, and he was in AA with the Frisco Rough Riders. That was my first time not in Texas, but not for soccer. So I got to, go eat. I went to the Dallas Star, all the things, fell in love with it. I was in the airport and I was picking up a Texas mug, a Texas Starbucks mug, dropped it, splatters everywhere. Of course, they're like, you don't have to pay for that. And I'm like, got it. Okay. So I check out, I come back with this Texas mug, and my mom is like, oh my gosh, how cute. And literally every year for Christmas, she gets me a random state. So apparently I'm collecting them now, John. This one specifically is Mississippi, which makes sense because I live here. But the other ones like Missouri, Arkansas, I don't know. We're just saying, thanks, Mom. Appreciate your love and kindness. So that's that.
So the goal for your mom obviously is to get you all 50 states in Puerto Rico and have it in the kitchen someplace.
Correct. I don't know how we're going to get to Alaska. I don't really even know if they have a Starbucks there. But
well, hang on. All right. So now that you've got me intrigued. All right. So
are we
Starbucks.
looking?
We're looking Starbucks locations, USA. All right. So this is like it's a Wall Pass Wednesday, and
Yeah.
traditionally, Wall Pass Wednesday is anything's on the table anyway. So it doesn't necessarily matter that
Starbucks mugs.
Yeah. So if we're discussing Starbucks locations, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're unable to access my location. That's the whole point.
So I have gotten so far. I believe I've gotten Texas. I've gotten Mississippi, Arkansas, because for some reason they always, I'm always due for like 2 Arkansas trips in SEC season at least.
Yeah.
Missouri as well. So I guess maybe that's why she got that one. And then she went to New York without me. How rude of her, and brought me back a mug. She was like, "Oh, I hope this makes up for it." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, that makes up for it.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is no Starbucks in Alaska, but Starbucks do exist in Washington State. So that's about as northwest within the United States that you're going to get, unless someone picks up a Starbucks mug in Washington State or in another location, meets you in Alaska,
right,
and presents you with that mug inside Alaska proper.
Right.
So
I've got to get to Alaska.
Yeah. So you and another individual have to get to Alaska. There has to be an official mug presentation for it to be an Alaska Starbucks mug. Then that way you get that particular state attached. So.
It's too much, John. It's too much. It's for a hobby I didn't even sign up for. Mm-hmm. It was forced upon me, thrust upon me, and I have to go to Alaska now?
Well, maybe we should just have your mom do it since she started it.
There we go. Mom, have so much fun on your cruise in Alaska. I've arranged someone to meet you there. Please deliver the mug back safely.
There you go. See, I think we have figured out the logistics of getting the mug for the 50 for the states that are not attached to Starbucks proper. All right, choice is yours. You can start with Super League, or you can start with Southeastern College Soccer and go Soccer's in Session. Where do you want to lead off this time?
We got a lot happening in the SEC. I'd rather let's hit Super League off the top.
Okay.
And then let's just roll into the SEC stuff, because Super League also only has 1 game this weekend. So.
Right. So this past weekend, once again, on the 24th, you had 24th and 25th.
Yeah.
It was a goalless draw at Riverfront with Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay, 2 matches, 2 points, 2 draws, drawing Dallas at Riverfront, drew DC Power at Riverfront, and then once again at American Legion Memorial in Charlotte, Carolina Ascent, Lex SC. You had the sharing of the points there.
Yep.
Now that you've had a couple days to look back at those 2 matchups, what sticks in your mind?
Carolina Ascent obviously being at the top of the table. I actually thought, Lexington SC, their home opener. We still have a few teams that won't get to the home opener until, end of September or so. So Carolina is the only team that's played 3 matches in 3 weeks. And they continue to improve. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away. When we're talking about like a new league and new identities and all the things, it's really hard to just look at you have pillars, right? For like, okay, this team can be good in the future, because let's call it what it is. We are building something in this first year with the hopes that we will continuously improve, right? Talent will improve, team relationships will improve, all the things. So there's a couple of things that I have like in my mind as I'm watching these teams early on. Number one, their ability to respond. Carolina Ascent, we've seen that time and time again. They go down, they equalize, they fight hard, they play a full 90-minute game. Love that. Second thing, which I thought was really great in the Carolina Lexington game, was chance creation, right? I don't look necessarily as much in like the execution and how perfect the execution is this early. I more look at chance creation and what are we creating? Is it quality? Is it in quantity, right? And that game was end to end. Granted, the defending needed some adjustments, but from an attacking perspective, really end-to-end game, lots of chance creation, lots of quality chance creation, and an absolute screamer from Mia Corbin, I believe it was, from the top of the box to equalize. And so I think now what I want to see for some of the teams in the Super League, and I'm looking at, so I was on the DC Power and Tampa Bay game. what I really want to see a little bit more of in the coming weeks is the ability to solve problems. Because I've said it ad nauseum, even on the broadcast, these teams don't have a firm identity yet. They're still trying to figure out exactly how they want to play, exactly what their style is going to be. And so when that's the case, it's really important for players to problem solve on the go. You're not going to be prepared for every situation. The scouting reports are really limited at the moment. And so it really is on you as the player in between those white lines to be able to solve problems and to do that in real time. And I think that's the piece I need to see a little bit more improvement of. Specifically, I'm thinking like DC power. There are some times where I'm like, if you guys would just go away from this and get into XYZ, you'd find this opening and you'd be into goal. It's not like they don't have the talent, right? They're just lacking a little bit of that problem solving.
The one matchup this weekend introduces yet another club here in Super League, and it's a home match at Maimonides where Brooklyn FC comes to the table, and they take on Carolina Ascent, who hit the road and head up to Brooklyn. So the first matchup for Brooklyn FC.
Yep. It's going to be an exciting one. I think Brooklyn FC is going to really offer us something different and unique to the Super League. Obviously, I think it's going to be a very unique crowd. I think that they're going to have the ear of a lot of people. One of also, the most prominent kind of ownership groups that we have alongside Carolina. So, and I mean, DC Power's got some, but in terms of big time names, I feel like Carolina and DC are right up there.
Yeah, it took me a little while to figure out. Do I remember how to pronounce Maimonides Park? And it took me a second to figure it out.
It's a tongue. It's like an anemone.
Yes, the sea creatures that we find at the bottom of the ocean.
Right. Still don't know what it is, but
yeah, AM gives you a couple of Scrabble points. There's a lot of vowels, so if you use all 7 letters, it gets you an extra 50. So the one matchup this weekend. Now, going to Soccer's in Session, the other reason that we bring you in every week is to discuss what's going on where it just means more in the Southeastern Conference. We're still drifting in and still trying to get to know ourselves when it comes to all of these clubs with the non-conference matchups. You still have some teams, like you mentioned last week, 2 top teams squaring off against each other. From 30,000 feet, now that you've had a couple of days to digest what happened this past weekend, what sticks in your mind?
I think we will see the SEC go deeper in the postseason than we ever have. And honestly, I think aside from, and I don't want to be too terribly rude today, maybe some other day, but today, aside from a couple teams who look to me like they're going to be at the bottom this year, the middle part of that pack has really started to come up to the top part of the pack. I mean, we've also just got some legendary coaches. We had like two 100th wins on the weekend. I believe it was Wes Hart getting his 100th win, 100th career win, and then Darren Ambrose getting his 100th Commodore win at Vandy. They beat St. Mary's 4-1. I do want to hit on my Georgia Bulldogs, right? Like let's just do it. Everyone's going to, you're so biased. So whatever. Okay, look, just hear my case. So Summer Dinnigan, co-freshman of the year last year, gets a hat trick after they take down Kennesaw State 6-0.
Yeah.
Grad transfer, who will end up being really impactful for them, Margie DiTrizio, gets a brace.
There you go.
Kennesaw State, I get it. Huge confidence win. Okay, and here's the point that I want to make for Georgia. They played 2 top 10 teams back to back. And I'm going to argue that Georgia has the best and most well-rounded non-conference schedule out of anyone in the SEC. So they go 0-0 draw against the number 7 Pitt team, who is coached by legend Randy Waldrum. We all know him, love him. His teams are excellent.
Yep.
Then you have a 3-4 loss on the road to number 5 North Carolina. I know it's a loss, but it was huge in terms of the goal production and in terms of the quality of goals that we saw. And then you if you look at it as a whole, their exhibition featured number 13 ranked Clemson, okay, a Clemson team who we saw make it very, very far in the postseason. Then they go play those 2 top 10 teams, like I just mentioned. You get the confidence boost with Kennesaw State, which is what non-conference is about, right? You got to have that in there somewhere.
Yep.
But then go have fun in the coming weeks playing defending national champion Florida State. Like, good luck there. Probably 5 players on that team that could have gone into professional contracts last year. And then you're going to look at two teams right before the start of the season. You're going to look at two teams in a Samford and a UCF who you will quite likely see in the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. So in terms of like the elite exposure that Georgia is getting with those teams we just mentioned, and the preparation for some of those, and let's be honest, some of the harder matchups are those opening NCAA rounds when you haven't faced that kind of style team. You don't have the scout, you don't know what they've done in the season. They're getting that exposure now, and it also gives them a chance to kind of invite some other players onto the pitch instead of playing 11 players for 90 minutes. So I'm going to argue that Georgia is going to be the most prepared going into the season. You can come at me if you would like, everyone.
Well, I mean, but that's the beauty of tape, is that Marion has come in and presented her case to the court. So we'll have it off to the side. So Counselor, your thoughts on the Georgia Bulldogs have been registered into the public record here at SDH, and we will hang on to those.
Yeah.
So, players of the week in the SEC this past week. Offensive player of the week, Trinity Byers out of Texas. First 78 minutes against SMU. This was a match that you had spot shadowed into last weekend. Fifth student athlete in program history to be credited with a 4-goal performance in a single match. 4 goals against SMU for student athlete in program history to score 50 or more during her career on the 40 acres. NCAA's active leader in career goals with 52 after what she did in Dallas on Thursday night. Defensive player of the week, LJ Knox, the senior center back out of Auburn. Senior center back out of Brentwood, Tennessee, the Nashville area. Very, very quiet when it comes to knowing where to get talent, but they got a lot of talent in that Nashville area, and Auburn has invaded Nashville and gotten a lot of talent there in Central Tennessee. A couple of shutouts for Auburn on the week. Shutout streak now to 3 matches, the third time in program history, first time since 2015 that they've done that. And now her 1v1 ability, just 2 shots on the week, no shots on target. 3 crosses blocked as well. Freshman of the week is UT freshman Reese Mattern from Charlottesville, Virginia. Spark for the Lady Vols, got the back of the net for the game winner against East Tennessee State. So that's the rundown of the players of the week in the SEC. And so once again, you get the variety of folks that are there, the folks putting up those early markers in those non-conference games that you're talking about. Texas putting up a number on SMU. Auburn being defensive, and Tennessee squeaking out a win that I think tests them against an East Tennessee State side that, as you talk about, those teams in the opening rounds of the tournament that come from the group of 4, group of 5s that you don't know about going in, you're like, okay, we know what we're kind of getting into here in an early non-conference contest against a conference that doesn't leap off the page yet.
Yeah, and Lipscomb as well for Tennessee, right? A great result on the weekend from them, a team that Tennessee literally always meets in the NCAA tournament. Love to see that from Joe Kurt, because I think, and you bring up a really good point with that kind of list of players of the week. When you look at a Texas and you look at a Tennessee, you can't rightfully compare the two just in terms of score. So one of the biggest things that I always like to remind people about is that Texas is starting from a much different position than the rest of the teams in this conference. Texas has returned an entire starting lineup. I think that there's only one other, maybe Washington State, one other school in the country that has done that this year. In my 4 years at Georgia, never in my life did I see that on a scouting report, right? Like, oh, hey, this is the same exact team as last year. And so when we're talking about what Texas has done historically in 2023, we're doing that because 2023 Texas is 2024 Texas. And so I think for them, at least me, I hold them to a little bit of a higher standard in terms of what they should be able to do in the non-conference. Like I look at their number 24. So it was number 12 Texas versus number 24 Iowa on Sunday. It was a scoreless draw, a lot of fatigue in the decision-making. It was really the first time Texas went that Thursday, Sunday. And you always kind of have one of those in the non-conference when you're like, all right, this is like me getting my legs back under me. The fatigue was shown definitely in the decision-making in the final third from Texas. And John, it was one of those where, like, I'm looking at the stats and it's like they combined for 27 shots, the two teams, 10 of them on goal. And the GKs had, notching 4+ saves. That makes you think, right? Wow, what an exciting matchup, end to end. I was on that game. I'm telling you, it wasn't. I'll be quite honest. There were only a handful of quality opportunities, and that was one of those matches where the stats didn't tell the full story. As opposed to what you just mentioned, Tennessee doing, getting a freshman on Player of the Week, really showing out in some of those regional local matchups that are a big deal for them come the postseason. And what Tennessee is struggling with is the fact that they've got like 17 new faces. They've got like, nine portal transfers, maybe like 8 freshmen, something like that, around that number. Joe Kurt lost a lot, but he gained a lot. And you can talk about the talent that he gained, but getting all of that talent to play on the same wavelength is a really difficult thing to do. So that I actually would argue that Tennessee's results on the weekend were more impressive than Texas.
All right, the calendar that's coming up in the SEC, what games are you, looking at, and what game will you be on the bark for to educate everybody this upcoming weekend?
So Georgia, obviously, actually, let me pull up so I don't misspeak because, I've got my week. So I'm on the Tennessee Duke game.
Okay.
And that's why I'm, so into Tennessee at the moment, because I'm actually watching them and they're doing some really good stuff. Let's see. Did Georgia play for us?
You didn't pick up one of those John Herdman drones, did you?
No.
Okay. You're watching film. You didn't hire a drone. Okay.
Correct. Look, I think that we need to talk about like Missouri. Well, actually, you know what? I want to talk about Florida because I'm calling Florida in a couple weeks as well. And I've been really impressed with Florida and what they've been able to do. So they just had a huge tie against an always NCAA bound UCF side. They're going to play Georgia State. That's not going to be an easy one for Florida. Georgia State's always got quality programs, quality discipline, defensive units. So the Gators, the big part of that is that they dealt with the weather delay for about an hour. And then they have a freshman net the equalizer. And then they have a player who had been injured, dealing with rehab. She comes back this year. She gets the second equalizer. And overall, just such a solid result because from being down at all last season. And now they've done it twice in one game, again, against a really solid UCF side. So Florida, for me, has jumped in terms of strength of schedule quite a bit from where they were last year. And I think that Georgia State matchup this week is going to be something that they are really not going to take lightly. And I wouldn't either. Obviously, we talked about Georgia, FSU. That is this coming weekend. That's going to be on ACC Network. Do not miss that one. That is going to be a matchup you might see come the NCAAs. Missouri, Miami. Here's the thing about Missouri for me. They lose to a ranked St. Louis team. They've got just 1 win in 4, John, but they're playing 2 nationally ranked teams within that 4. One of them being a top 10 Memphis team who Ole Miss also lost to. And so they will play a very good ACC matchup in Miami. That'll be a really good test for them in terms of a different kind of style of play. And then Auburn, South Alabama. I feel like that's always an interesting one because South Alabama will shock a lot of people with how good they are. Let's see what else we got. Arkansas. I got to talk about Arkansas. I can't get through an SEC soccer segment without talking about Arkansas. John.
Yeah.
Look, 8 different goal scorers and a 10-0 win against Northwestern. Okay, call it what you will. But then they go top 10 matchup, first one of the season, number 9 Arkansas, number 8 Michigan State, 2-2 draw, extremely physical game, 34 fouls, 7 cards. Arkansas goes down to 10 players, and what a performance from their goalkeeper, Keegan Smith. Arkansas hasn't had a really elite goaltender since Katie Lund, who was playing for Racing Louisville now, and Keegan Smith could potentially be that missing piece for them. Arkansas this week is going to play, let's see, who do we have for the Arkansas Razorbacks? WKU. Okay. So they have an easier schedule, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then South Carolina is playing a top-ranked Ohio State team. So South Carolina, John, is always that team that just kind of bides their time. They mind their own business. They're always a little silent because they're not that flashy, but they're so consistent. So this weekend they had 2 fifth-years getting multiple goals. Karina Zillow got a brace on the weekend. Kat Berry, likely going to be an All-American this year, gets a brace on the weekend. So fifth year's leading the way, which is something Shelley Smith likes to see. Ohio State currently ranked at number 18, so that will be a really good matchup as well.
And so you're saying early on that Memphis and South Alabama are early pains in the
yes.
what?
Are what?
They're early pains in the what when you play.
Oh, absolutely. And they always are. So like I think of Memphis, who always typically gets like a Mississippi State in the early rounds. They always sometimes will get an Arkansas in the early rounds. Like I'm telling you guys, sometimes the easier matchups are like those Sweet 16 matchups. Sometimes the ones that catch you off guard the most are the teams that you haven't played, right? The conferences you don't really understand the style of play. And when you think about someone like a Memphis, someone like a South Alabama, you're telling me that I get a chance to show Arkansas this, the love child of the SEC. I get a chance to go and show them that we're something more than just a school in Tennessee.
Yep.
Like, no. So, I mean, they always play with such a chip on their shoulder as well, which is why I love seeing some of these in the non-conference, because I think that you're going to meet them again postseason for sure.
Always the fun part of the schedule. And as always, Marion, great to see you. Great to catch up with you. And great to pick your brain about what's going on in USL Super League and with the SEC. So we get basically two segments in one every single week when you get to drop by and break everything down in the pro ranks and in the college ranks for the Southeastern Conference. And we love you for it. So
always a blast.
How much is left in the mug of the day? How much coffee is in? Is this your first?
This is my third cup of the day.
Whoa!
So we had, I know, and it's 9:30 where I'm at, or like 9:56 where I'm at. So we had high school practice this morning. I can't show up to sophomores and juniors in high school without a cup of coffee. So that was that. Come back home, Hunter. Sweet love to him. He has a full pot of coffee waiting on me. So I'm just here we are.
Yes. So third cup of coffee, and you're in study hall, and you take your study hall break to come and hang out with us on Wall.
What about you?
This is my today it's the Gwinnett Stripers.
Love that.
Matching minor leagues. When you talk, and I do have Frisco Rough Riders gear somewhere here in the office. It does exist.
Love Frisco. Frisco.
And so for me, it is, well, actually, hell, I'm not going to show you inside the mug. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm waiting for the Pepsi sponsorship. There you go. See, I have never gotten into the idea of drinking hot, flavorless water for my caffeine. I've never been a coffee person.
You have not made coffee correctly then, sir.
Well, then the people that I've been around have not made it correctly, and I've never been a fan. I've just gone straight to the sodas. And since I'm 712 years old and drink soda first thing in the morning instead of coffee, I'm just a different bird, but hell, you knew that.
Hey, we all have that one thing that's going to end up being the death of us. I'm going to be over caffeinated. It'll be sodas for you, and we'll just go out happy, man. That's all it's about.
Exactly. So be safe. Have good calls this weekend. We will catch up with you once again. This time in the Central Time Zone and the Eastern Time Zone. Hell, all the time zones.
All the time zones.
Week again. Week Wednesday, 10:30 Eastern Time. As always, Marion Crowder dropping by to talk soccer's in session in the SEC and with what's going on in the USL Super League. As always, my friend, great to see you. We'll catch up with you next week.
Good to see you, John. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, that's Marion Crowder. And so it's great to have Marion on because when we had Marion back on with us and started to have her back on a regular basis, we had Marion on to discuss the SEC and USL League One because she used to work in Greenville with the Triumph. And now she is this highfalutin TV star, and she gets to do Super League matchups, and she gets to do SEC stuff. And so we have to catch up with her because of how busy she is in the footprint, and to be able to kind of break bread with her every single week to find out about what's going on in a new league in the USL Super League and with what's going on in the Southeastern Conference on the women's side when it comes to soccer. It's always great to pick her brain and find out what's going on in the life of Marion Crowder. And so Marion on social medias, for those of you that have not followed along, and you need to follow Marion, by the way. Marion is Marion CC _, MARION CC_. So that's Marion Crowder. That's her on the 280 character app, and you get to follow along and study along with her. She's not using drones to study; she's just watching film. So that's that's where we are with Marion every single week here at 10:30 on Wednesdays on Wild Pass Wednesday. We do have our gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it before we get out of here. Once again, remember tonight, 7 o'clock pregame show on the network on our Mixler site, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. It is Atlanta United 2 at Carolina Core, and pregame show at 7, kick at 7:33, if I remember correctly. And if I'm not mistaken, it is on MLS Season Pass. So you can try and figure out a way to sync up our pregame show and Jason's call on Season Pass. Like I said, there's no radio option yet. And there's definitely no away radio option yet. So at Truist Point, 7:30, it's on Season Pass, one of 3 matches in MLS Next Pro in the Eastern Conference. Remember, both Core and the Twos have 2 matches in hand with Chattanooga FC, and that's the next opponent for Atlanta on Sunday at Fort Finley. So big matchup with Carolina Court, 7:30 tonight, part of a busy day in the East. NYCFC 2 on the top of the parking deck at St. John's is hosting Orlando City B at 5 o'clock. Then it's the 7:30 matchup with Carolina Core hosting the Twos. 9 o'clock, I think Austin FC 2, Los Verdes, could eliminate Loons 2 from playoff consideration in the West with a win at Palmer Field in Austin, 9 o'clock on Season Pass. So those are the 3 matchups today on Season Pass for MLS Next Pro. The Twos playing Carolina Core, big matchup, 2 matches in hand with folks above them that are right now in the playoff picture. So win and move forward and continue to chase after a postseason spot. You'll hear from head coach Steve Cook in the pregame show, and we'll also go over the highlights of what happened with Atlanta United and Orlando City B last time out at the Fraction on Friday night. So big pregame show, and we'll get you prepped for everything going on. Jason will have the call. So pregame show at 7, kickoff a little after 7:30, like 7:33. So that's where we are there. All right, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, and where to go to get all your info on the day. So since it is a Wall Pass Wednesday, DAZN here in the United States, it's a light day. DAZN in the U.S., Lyon Benfica at 1:45, Chelsea and Ajax at 4, Argentine Copa de la Liga, Lanús and Union Santa Fe at 8:30. That's on Paramount Plus. Tomorrow, with our buddy Nino Torres from Gold TV, when we go fully loaded at 10 o'clock, we will discuss Sudamericana. We'll discuss Copa Libertadores. We'll discuss his beloved Columbus Crew. We'll see if he's going to get a matching Leagues Cup tattoo to go with his Columbus, Ohio highway perimeter tattoo that he has on his left arm. So we'll see what the plans are with a Leagues Cup win with Nino and then Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. First hour tomorrow is going to be free agent stuff, Thursday thoughts, whatever's on your mind as we go what happened tonight with Columbus and Philly in the makeup game that got slid because of Leagues Cup. And so we'll let you know what's going on there. We do have our announcer assignments for the weekend and on a Season Pass. It will be Nate Bacady, Devin Kerr in Charlotte with Atlanta and Charlotte. Callum and Kalen in Cincinnati for Montreal and Cincinnati. Keep an eye on Montreal. See if Joey Saputo makes the trip to TQL to keep an eye on things. Also at 7:30, it is Keith and Mo, Keith Costigan, Mo Adu. They're in Columbus for NYCFC and Columbus Crew. Kanji and Danny are at Red Bull Arena for Philadelphia Union and Red Bulls. It is Chris Whittingham and Miguel Gajardo at 7:30 for Orlando City and Nashville. Eric Krakauer, Jalil Anibaba in Toronto for DC United and Toronto. 8:30, Neil Sika Lloyd Sam for Austin hosting Vancouver. 8:30, Tyler and Kendra are in Chicago for Messi and Friends and Chicago Fire. 8:30, it is Francisco Rivera and Warren Barton in Dallas for Dallas or FC Dallas in Colorado. Rogo and Heath Pierce are in RSL for the Revs and RSL. Max and Dunny are in Los Angeles for LAFC and Houston Dynamo at 10:30. Jake and TT are in Portland, so it's a home game for Jake as Cascadia happens with Portland and Seattle. Also at 10:30, Christian Miles, Jamie Watson are in San Jose for the Loons and the Quakes. And Sunday afternoon at 2:45 is Tony Husband and Ross Smith at City Park for All Caps and LAG. So those are your assignments for the weekend. Evan Bush is out for Columbus tonight with an arm injury. Isaiah LaFleur is out with a knee injury for Philadelphia Union. So those are the only two mentions on the player status report for tonight's game, once again, with Columbus and Philly. All right, so gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and we'll see if there's anything on updated info with the papers and all of that stuff, because traditionally right now, if we go to stuff from like the BBC, then it's a little slow. Okay, so it looks like Liverpool has agreed on a $10 million deal. Initially, it was thought to be 15, but it looks like it's 10 plus 2.5 for Chiesa from Juve, and so he's traveling to get a medical completed. You add that to the 30 million euro capture of a Mamardashvili, and so it's been a decent work for Arne Slot and Liverpool. So Liverpool 10 plus 2.5 to bring Chiesa in. Darwin Nunez has been handed a 5-game international ban for his role in what happened at the end of Uruguay's semifinal against Colombia last month at the Copa America. Remember, he went into the stands and was a part of the brawl that broke out in the lower level at B of A. And Nunez was captured in the video footage throwing a chair where Colombia supporters were sitting, has also been given a 15,000-pound fine. Rodrigo Betancourt has been given a 4-game international ban, fined 12,000 pounds. Matias Oliveira, Ronald Araujo, Josema Jimenez have each been suspended for 3 matches. Uruguayan football officials defended their players in the aftermath, claiming they were simply trying to prevent their families from coming to harm. We mentioned, so we got the Chiesa deal. Maybe there is talk, Jacob Steinberg on Raheem Sterling. It could be a trade, Sterling for Jadon Sancho. Keep an eye on that. Everton could move Armando Broja if the loan move to Ipswich cannot be revived. Maresca has 6 senior center backs, according to Jacob Steinberg of The Guardian. Trevor Chalobah out of favor. Offers for Axel Disasi and Badia Shiel will not be automatically turned away. Head coach looking to bring in a defender capable of fitting into his passing game. Solid interest in Chalobah yet to materialize. And so we mentioned the loan of Kepa to Bournemouth. Ben Chilwell has no future at the club. Could be offered in any move for Sancho, who earns a reported 300,000 pounds a week. Chukwuemeka could leave. Doubts over Gabriel, David Washington, David Datro Fofana, and Cesare Casade. Tino Angerin is poised to join Empoli. Santiago Jimenez has informed Forest about his decision to definitely reject the proposal of 30 million pounds. And so the deal is now off again, involving Santi Jimenez to Nottingham Forest. According to the Telegraph, Forest is also chasing Omar Marmoush. Do they end up with a striker? We don't know. Leicester have sold Zach Booth to Excelsior Rotterdam. So the release on social media, fire in the booth. Literally, that's what Excelsior Rotterdam posted at the beginning of their 280-character release. Fire in the booth. Zach Booth from Leicester to Excelsior. So there's that particular move. RB Leipzig's Mohamed Simakan emerged as a potential alternative for Newcastle if they fail to sign Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. Looks like they want 50 million euro for the 24-year-old previously tracked by Arsenal and Barcelona. Palace have rejected multiple bids from Newcastle for Mark Gahey. It has gotten to 60 plus 5. And right now they're still trying to figure out if they want to say yes or no. So there's more no than yes. Athletic Bilbao signed Unai Nunez again. And so that is a signing for them. Martina Piemonte on the women's side has left Everton to join Lazio on a permanent transfer. So news in women's soccer. Yassine Adli has joined Fiorentina on an initial loan deal from AC Milan. Deals a reported 2 million euro loan for the season with a 10 million euro option to buy. So you've got that on the table. We mentioned Chiesa. Victor Osimhen is ready to turn down a move to Al Ahly and will wait for Chelsea to make their move before deciding on his future. So Osimhen not going anywhere. And so that's what we're staring at from the active news. The other news that is out there involving gossip, rumor, and innuendo that we haven't had the chance to discuss yet. We did mention Ivan Toney and the idea that Tony's looking at Chelsea's looking at Tony. Tony doesn't want to go to Al Ahly. He could reportedly earn up to 400,000 pounds a week in the Saudi Pro if he goes. So not interested in that. We mentioned Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We mentioned Chiesa. Oral Mangala, Lyon midfielder, expected to have a medical with Everton with a view of joining the club on loan before the deadline. Leicester close to the breakthrough in their £19.5 million bid to sign Genk and Morocco midfielder Bilal El Khanous. That, I believe, is done. Nottingham Forest looking at Ajax forward Brian Brobby as a potential signing before the window closes. Chelsea have identified Jean Duran. We mentioned Jean Duran also as a part of the Tony chase for Chelsea as an alternative to Victor Osimhen. Roma open to selling Tammy Abraham with West Ham interested. Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund are monitoring Jadon Sancho's situation. Manchester City yet to make a decision on the future of Mateus Nunez. They're aware of Atletico Madrid's interest. Remember, Nunez has fallen down the pecking order with the bringing in of Ilkay Gundogan. Ipswich in advanced talks to sign Chidozie Ogbene from Luton. Leeds have opened talks with Fortuna Dusseldorf in a bid to sign Japan midfielder Ao Tanaka, 4-letter paper. Bayern Munich have agreed on a deal with Al Hilal for Kingsley Coman. However, the winger has yet to commit to the move. West Brom have rejected a bid of about £10 million from Southampton for winger Tom Fellows. Wout Weghorst is set to join Ajax from Burnley after reaching a personal agreement with the Dutch club. There. All right, so we're caught up on all of the gossip, I think. So let me check one more time with our friends at The Athletic. And they do not have anything extra in their WhatsApp group. I feel so special that I can dial up their WhatsApp group and see what's going on. So that'll do it for us. Back in a little less than 22. Tomorrow, once again, wide open hour number 1. Hour number 2, it's Nico and Nino. And we'll discuss what's on their mind. Thanks again to Marion Crowder for dropping by. Thanks to Dylan Butler for dropping by. Thanks to Tyler Pilgrim for dropping by. Remember, Scarves and Spikes is tonight. And Sporting Kansas City heading to their 5th Open Cup. And remember, the Champions League draw is tomorrow as well. So we'll see what happens in the Champions League draw with the expanded field. National Soccer Hall of Fame has released the names of the 21 veteran and 25 builder semifinalists. That came across yesterday. The ballot semifinalists for the veterans, you have the player, the veteran, and the builder voting committees, electing a maximum of 6 new Hall of Fame members, as many as 3 players and 2 vets, along with a builder. Veteran ballot semifinalists. I thought we were done. One more thing. Armas, Beckham, Borja, Sean Bowers, Kevin Crow, Francis Farberoff, Lori Fair, Mary Harvey, Frankie Haydock, Lori Henry, Zach Ibsen, Eddie Lewis, Carlos Llamosa, Clinton Mathis, Shep Messing, Heather Mitz, J.C. Russo, Tony Sane, Lindsay Tarpley, Tattoo, and Allie Wagner. Interesting. The builder semifinalists were selected by the 9-person screening committee from the list of 113 eligible. Next step in the builders election will be for the screening committee to narrow the field to 10. Builder ballot. Mark Abbott, Clive Charles. Clive Charles should be a slam dunk. Gene Chisowich, Al Colon, William Cox, Joe Cummings, Gino DiPolito, Mike Edwards, Ed Foster Simeon, Mark Geiger. He'll probably get into the final group. Richard Groff, Burton Hames, Brian Hall, Jay Hoffman, Clark Hunt, and Sandra Hunt. They'll probably both get in. Robert Kraft, he'll get in. Liwecki probably gets in. So that's 5 or 6. Vince Morrow, Tom Meredith, Lothar Osiander should get in. Lincoln Phillips, Kerry Seitz, Pia Sundhage, and Keith Tozer. Both of those should get in. So that gives you 8. And so there you go. Veteran committee will have their own discussions as well. So that is the rundown of everything today. Thanks for hanging out with us. We were flying around pretty fast today, and we had a lot to talk about in a lot of different places. So once again, thanks to Tyler, thanks to Dylan, thanks to Marion, and thanks to you. Back at it again in a little less than 22, and we'll go over everything. Remember tonight, the Twos at Carolina Corp. Pregame show 7 o'clock at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. So it's that time for me to whistle us out of here and do it all over again. We'll be back with you tonight, 7 o'clock for MLS Next Pro on the SDH Network.